On November 1st, 2025, one of the most suspicious fights in recent UFC history went down. The betting lines moved so dramatically just hours before the bout that sportsbooks sounded the alarm. What happened next in the octagon triggered an FBI investigation and torched a promising career. This is the story of the surprising downfall of Isaac Dulgarian. It's a story that's not just about one fighter, but about the integrity of the entire sport of mixed martial arts. A cautionary tale of how quickly a career, built over years of pain and sacrifice, can be shattered in a matter of minutes. How did a fighter once seen as a can't-miss prospect find himself at the center of a federal investigation, cut from the world's biggest MMA promotion, and disavowed by his own team? To understand the fall, you have to understand the rise. Who was Isaac Dulgarian before the scandal? And what led him to that fateful night in Las Vegas? Before the controversy and the whispers of a fix, Isaac Dulgarian was known as the Midwest Choppa. It was a fitting nickname for a fighter who carved a path of destruction through the regional MMA scene. Hailing from Fort Scott, Kansas, Dulgarian was a product of the heartland, with the grit and wrestling-heavy style the region is famous for. His amateur career, with a reported 4-0 record, was a sign of what was to come. He turned pro in 2021, and the results were immediate and explosive. Dulgarian wasn't just winning, he was finishing fights with brutal efficiency. His resume quickly filled up with first-round victories, a mix of devastating knockouts and suffocating submissions. In his first 6 professional fights, he never even saw the second round. That was the blueprint for the Midwest Choppa. Overwhelming pressure, powerful takedowns, and a relentless hunt for the finish. He was building the kind of resume that gets you noticed, and sure enough, the UFC came calling. His debut was set for August 12, 2023, against another promising fighter, Francis Marshall. This was it. The bright lights of the UFC apex, a global audience, and the chance to prove he belonged. He didn't just win, he did it in classic Dulgarian fashion. At 4 minutes and 48 seconds of the first round, he overwhelmed Marshall with strikes, earning a TKO and announcing his arrival. He was now 1-0 in the UFC, his pro record a perfect 7-0. The hype was real. He was training at Factory X, a highly respected gym in Colorado under coach Mark Montoya, alongside other UFC veterans. He was in the right place, with the right skills and all the momentum in the world. But the UFC is a different beast. Dulgarian learned this in his next fight in March 2024 against Christian Rodriguez. It was a grueling 3-round war that tested him in ways he hadn't been before. For the first time in his career, he went the distance. And for the first time, his hand wasn't raised. He lost a hard-fought split decision, the first blemish on his record. How a fighter bounces back often defines their career. Dulgarian returned 6 months later, in September 2024, and got back in the win column with a second-round submission over Brendan Marat. He had faced adversity and overcome it. His UFC record now stood at 2-1, and he was still a prospect to watch. As 2025 rolled around, his next fight was booked for November 1st in Las Vegas. His opponent was an undefeated Cuban prospect named Yadier del Valle, who held a perfect 9-0 record. On paper, it was a classic matchup. Dulgarian, with his powerful wrestling, opened as a significant -250 betting favorite. Nobody could have predicted that this fight would be remembered not for what happened in the cage, but for the dark cloud of suspicion that would engulf it, setting the stage for one of the biggest betting scandals in the sport's history. The night of November 1st, 2025, should have been another step forward for Isaac Dulgarian. He was the favorite, and he was expected to win. But in the hours before the fight, something strange started happening in the betting markets. The lines didn't just move, they crashed. A fighter who had been a steady -250 favorite saw his odds plummet. In the final hour before the fight, a massive wave of money came in on his opponent, Yadier del Valle. Not just for Del Valle to win, but to win in the first round. The line movement was so drastic that Dulgarian's odds fell to nearly minus 150, a huge shift that signaled heavy, concentrated betting. According to journalist Harry Mack, a $16 million handle on the Dulgarian fight pushed things to the brink.
The round one finish prop drops from around plus 900 to close to plus 200. So obviously, that's going to raise some eyebrows. What precipitated, I guess, this becoming the problem it has is 5 bets that were placed at the Hard Rock retail that basically pushed things over the edge. The final handle on the Dulgarian fight was $16 million.
Oh, wow.
I'm not sure. I know you're a gambling guy. For everybody at home, I really cannot contextualize how preposterous a $16 million handle on a Apex prelim is. We're talking about like an NBA game or a lower tier NFL game. Like that in and of itself is going to raise flags.
This kind of movement is a giant red flag for sportsbooks and integrity monitors. It suggests that someone, somewhere, knows something. The UFC was alerted to the suspicious activity through their betting integrity partner, IC360. According to UFC President Dana White, they took the unusual step of contacting Dulgarian and his lawyer before the fight, asking if he was injured or had any issues. Dulgarian denied everything, insisting he was fine and ready to win. The UFC let the bout proceed.
Probably about 1 o'clock that day, we're with a company called IC360, and they are the best bet monitoring company in the business. And they reached out to us and they told us that there was some unusual action going on with that fight. Do we know anything? You know, we didn't. So what we did was we called the fighter and his lawyer and said, what's going on? There's some weird action going on in your bet, weird betting action going on in your fight. Are you injured? Do you owe anybody money? Has anybody approached you to, and the kid said, no, absolutely not.
The fight began, and Dulgarian shot for a takedown, just as everyone expected. But this time, he couldn't finish it. Del Valle defended, and in the scramble, he took Dulgarian's back. What happened next is what truly set off alarms. As Del Valle worked for a rear naked choke, Dulgarian's defense was baffling. The commentary team, including former champion Daniel Cormier, immediately questioned what they were seeing. Dulgarian was making fundamental JiuJitsu 101 mistakes. Instead of fighting the hands to defend the choke, he was throwing useless punches behind his own head. On the post-fight show, analyst and UFC fighter Michael Chiesa didn't hold back, calling it an F- performance. It was absolute trash. It was a performance that was hard to comprehend from a high-level fighter. The inevitable happened. Del Valle sunk in the choke, and at 3 minutes and 41 seconds of the first round, Isaac Dulgarian tapped out. The underdog had won. The first round finish that was so heavily bet on had come true. The result was so suspicious that major sportsbooks like Caesars and William Hill took the extraordinary step of refunding losing bets on Dulgarian, a clear signal they believed the fight's integrity was compromised. This wasn't just a bad night at the office. This was a situation that threatened the sport's legitimacy, and the UFC knew it had to act fast. The UFC's reaction was immediate and severe. Dana White, who was aware of the betting irregularities before the fight, didn't wait around. He later told TMZ that as soon as the fight was over, he walked to his room and called the FBI. This was now a federal matter.
So we said, okay, the fight plays out, and first round finish by rear naked choke. Literally, the first thing we did was call the FBI.
For Isaac Dulgarian, the professional consequences came just as quickly. In the days following the loss, it was reported that he had been released from his UFC contract. While fighters lose all the time, the timing made it clear his release was tied to the scandal. His UFC career was over, with a final record of 2-2. The damage didn't stop there. His gym, Factory X, and head coach Mark Montoya moved to distance themselves from the controversy. In an interview, Montoya confirmed Dulgarian had been released from the team pending the outcome of the investigation, stating, "Whether he's guilty or he's innocent, in my prediction, Isaac Dulgarian is not gonna fight again."
He was cut from the UFC, and unfortunately there's an investigation that is being had, and ultimately that he's not part of this Factory X team because of everything going on, and that was ultimately the conversation. Whether he's guilty or he's innocent, in my prediction, Isaac Dulgarian is not going to fight again. And so does it really matter where he claims where he's training? Ultimately where we sit today is in just a crazy mess with all these allegations. And so the least of his concerns right now would be where he's at and where he's training.
The scandal also brought a troubling connection back into the spotlight. Dulgarian had previously trained at Glory MMA and Fitness, the gym run by James Krause. Krause is a central figure in the most significant betting scandal in UFC history, which led to his lifetime ban from the sport. The UFC banned any fighter who continued to train with him, and Dana White confirmed that the new investigation would be comprehensive.
And we get a report after every single fight that we do. So for anybody out there that's clickbait saying, "Oh, there's hundreds of fights," it's all bullshit. We've been with these guys for years. We take this very serious, and we're watching every single fight that happens in the UFC, from the first prelim to the main event. So when this did happen, a couple of years ago, whenever it was, that investigation is still ongoing, and now will be a part of this investigation too.
In the span of a single weekend, Isaac Dulgarian went from being a rising featherweight to the face of a federal investigation. He lost his job, his team, and his reputation. The Midwest Choppa was now a pariah, his name linked to scandal, fight fixing, and FBI. His downfall was as swift as it was shocking, leaving the MMA world to grapple with the fallout and the lingering question, why? Why would a 29-year-old fighter with a promising career throw it all away? That's the question at the heart of this scandal, and it's what the FBI is now tasked with answering. The betting evidence alone is damning. It wasn't just that Dulgarian lost, it was how the money predicted he would lose. The massive late betting on a very specific outcome, a first-round finish for Yadier del Valle, is the kind of activity that integrity monitors exist to flag. Reports claim some prop bets for a first-round finish swung from as high as plus 850 down to plus 475. This suggests a coordinated effort and a high degree of confidence in a predetermined result. Then there's the performance itself. Expert analysts called his defense full of day-one mistakes, which is hard to explain for a grappler of his caliber unless the intention was to lose. This suspicion was echoed by his own coach, Mark Montoya, who confirmed that both he and the UFC had spoken to Dulgarian before the fight about the betting activity, though Dulgarian denied any wrongdoing. Montoya's public prediction that Dulgarian will not gonna fight again, regardless of the investigation's outcome, only deepened the mystery. The most common motivation for fixing a fight is money, often stemming from debt or desperation, a reality for many fighters on lower-tier contracts. Just days before the fight, Dulgarian himself had joked in an interview that he felt he deserved a percentage of any winning bets placed on him.
Hey, I said, don't bet on me unless you're paying me some percentage. I'm doing all the work. That's how I feel about it. You know what I mean? Like, I work my ass off every day. I'm trying to support a family with this. I think they should put like some type of clause, like 3 or 5% of what you make goes to the fighter. You know, so that's how I think they should do it, because we're the ones putting our lives on the line. We're the ones, sacrificing everything, training all day long, losing a social life, all that type of stuff. So yeah, if you're betting on me, I want some of it.
The story of Isaac Dulgarian is a tragedy. It's the story of a young man who reached the peak of his sport only to fall in the most disgraceful way imaginable. His name won't be remembered for the knockouts that got him to the UFC. Instead, it will be forever linked with one of the biggest betting scandals in the promotion's history. His downfall serves as a brutal lesson for every athlete. In an age where sports betting is everywhere, the temptation for corruption is a constant threat. The Dulgarian case shows that the systems in place to catch cheaters are getting more sophisticated. The betting lines don't lie, and a multi-billion-dollar company like the UFC will show no mercy in rooting out anything that threatens its integrity. For Dulgarian, the future is bleak. A federal investigation hangs over his head. His fighting career is in ashes, and his reputation is destroyed. He now stands as a cautionary tale, a ghost of what could have been. The Midwest Choppa, once a symbol of rising potential, is now a symbol of a career chopped down by scandal. The final chapter of his story will likely be written not in a cage, but in a courtroom. And for the sport of MMA, it's a chapter they are desperate to close and leave behind. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below.